add myself to the screen. Hey, everybody, this is Kathryn Perry, the Big Vision Coach, and welcome to day 4. Now, this sounds almost like kind of a boring topic, but it's so crucial, and it is focusing on the right actions. And this is going to be a little surprising because, we get this teaching very often, and we talked about this yesterday, about taking massive action. And when you're a solopreneur or a coach or you're a practitioner, you don't often have that team starting out, or you have the team, there's things you have to know how to do until you could manage your team. You don't know quite yet what to delegate. This is a big problem. I remember back in the day when I was, working these 12, 14-hour days, sometimes longer, just to push through and get everything done, because I was hitting the marketing really hard. I was going to all the networking meetings. I was giving intro nights. I was giving talks, and most of my energy was directed to the marketing. But what do you have to do? You've got to do all that management stuff. You've got to do all the building and the funneling and the article writing and social media and all that time, right? So we've got to build that in because life keeps happening anyway. And, I'm going to say too, your friends and family really don't get what you do or how you need to spend your time, like why it would be important for you to have time to just think. And that's something I've had to have a lot of conversations with my family about. It's like, I'm a creative person and I need some time just to think and think, right? To, like maybe I'm thinking about a project and while I'm thinking about it, I'm going to like clean the house, or I'm going to go for a walk, or I need to go for a drive, so that I can get it clear in my mind. I'm not really one that has that short from brain to hand, right, planning. I've got to really visualize it and have an internal conversation with myself. Well, my family would think, well, you're not doing anything. I just thought it would take just a second, and they don't understand that you're on a loop, and once it stops, you got to get started again. So I had to commit to time to think and give myself time and space to think. By doing that kind of set up it kind of trained my brain and disciplined me to kind of think on command, not try to catch an idea and then try to rush and make it happen. I mean, that can be exciting sometimes, but it's an exhausting way to build a business. And if there's a book that I can recommend on this, I definitely want to talk about, and I'm going to type it in here and I'll put it in the chart, but it is The War of Art. And I can't tell you who the person is, but that wrote it off the top of my brain. I've listened to it many times, but it's so powerful because it's really challenging everything that he talks about, how to overcome all the challenges and barriers to creativity. And one of the things that they talk about is this idea that creativity is just something that you catch and then you float away on it and it carries you. No, creativity happens. A lot of writers will say this, like, yeah, I'm creative every day when I sit down at the typewriter and I start working at 9 a.m. That's when my creativity comes on. From the hours from 9 to 2, I'm creative then. They are absolutely dedicated to that being the time and space. Someone else, and I'll try to find her article on it, and it's the woman who wrote Eat, Pray, Love, Elizabeth Gilbert. And she does this beautiful talk, she really did this beautiful piece talking about creativity. Is it something you have? Is it something you catch? Is it something you have to work towards? And sometimes the answer is all three. So we want to tune into that. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about that stuff. Hey, Billy, see, she says for the last 2 days for self-care. Yeah, I had to take that time. We're so sorry for your loss, and it was really a very important time, that year anniversary. So thank you. Yes. Oh, hey, Amy. Thank you, Remy. So Pressfield is who wrote that, War of Art. And then, hey, Miss Emily. So we're going to be talking about that, War of Art by Pressfield. We'll go ahead and take a look at that. Okay. So I've got the handouts. Let me get over here. And I want to just talk to you about some ideas. And then I do have another resource that we are going to be focusing on. And that I'll be sharing. You know, I'll start talking to you. Next thing you know, I want to give you some time. And in this challenge, we are talking about sales mastery, right? And there's the backroom part of sales. There's that kind of behind the curtain, all the things that you have to do to prepare. There's the research and and then you're researching not only the marketing, you're researching the solution, you're looking for the right relationships and connections. You're building your skill set. Now that we're more in the solopreneur way, and this, everything I'm teaching actually could apply if you're a realtor and you're working with someone else's marketing system. If you're in an employee and part of your business is even customer service, and you're kind of having to convince people to, upsell, which is like fries with that type of thing. But this isn't just solopreneurs, but I tend to speak to solopreneurs. But everybody needs to be able to master the skill of sales. So we have these different phases, right? And then we have to know where we're going to find our prospects. And then there's lead generation out of this pool of potential people. Like, here's this group of people that we want to work with. And then out of that pool of people, who are the prospects? Now the prospects, how do we get in front of them and to get them into our world, right? And so all of that, getting them into relationship, getting them in our world, and then finally to where we can get in front of them and have a conversation or make an offer some way, whether it's on a webinar or you're selling from the stage, whatever it is that you're doing. There's that moment you say, here's what I have, and here's why I think you should have it, and how much do I, how would you like to pay, right? Everything is going to come down to that moment. So there's a long process, and this is called the sales pipeline. And when you're a small business owner or independent business owner, or solopreneur, then something happens that, we are not on a regular schedule. We don't have the same constraints that a lot of people do of knowing when we're done working. Like, my little mini office is in the corner of my bedroom. Right now I'm living with my daughter while I'm about to buy an RV and move it onto the property and have my own little corner of the world. Yay. And but I'm in this transition. So I've really got to guard my time. I got to make every minute count, but I'm never really off, right? And then there's the family stuff. And now I've got to negotiate my natural cycle with their natural cycle. And they try to be respectful, but, I'm in somebody else's bubble right now. And we all are in somebody else's bubble. So how do we manage that? How do we know when to turn it off? How do we know when we were successful? Because the other problem is that because there's always so much to do, and we're always on to that next project or the next customer or the next event, we never really get to take that moment of going, yeah, I got to have success. I got to experience the success that you created. And so this is why it's important to get in time here. So I want to just kind of go over this. I'm doing this in the outline form. I'm going to do my best to follow what's on the outline, and I want to be able to get your feedback too. Okay. Before we do, I want to tune into you guys and see how the challenge has been working for you so far. And if you have any questions, what your takeaway is. Hey, friend, and Emily, got our Remy. I think Larry is. We have some more people that are showing that they're on, and they're coming from a different thing. But let's see here. Any questions or comments? Anything? Anybody? Any wins? Anyone would like to share? And has this been valuable for you so far? I want to let you know that tomorrow I am announcing a special 1-day boot camp. And I was going to have it scheduled for this weekend, and I realized I wanted to, there's some things I decided that I want to do it, and I need to actually reorganize it. So I'm actually going to be setting it up for next weekend, and I'll give you some details on that. It's going to be a really powerful event, and you're going to walk away with an action plan, and you're going to be able to tune into some skills, and you'll know what to do, how to do it, what your next steps are, and we're going to make some magic happen next weekend. Okay. So, all right. So far, so good. Okay. Well, everybody's doing great and perfect in every way, and you absolutely have it. Okay. Well, I want to first talk about this myth about willpower. We always that's the thing, right? We're gonna power our way through, and then everybody goes, "Man, I don't know why I'm not motivated. I know I need to do it. I got to get to it. I got to make money, but I'm kind of overwhelmed. I don't know where to get started." Right? And then you start coming up with your own objections, your own fears. You go, "Oh, now it's too late. I need to make money. Oh, how am I going to get money? And there's no time to make it happen. And if I start calling people, I'm going to sound desperate, but no, I can't do it. Not yet." And then you're like, next thing you know, you're spinning backwards, right? Instead of being able to use your energy and know where it needs to be directed. And this is what we're working on. And the myth of willpower is this, that it is not something you conjure. Willpower is very much like faith. You have a reserve of energy that is your willpower that moves you through difficulty. Okay. Faith too, it's like a muscle that you have to exercise. You have to keep sending it out there. And then as it comes back in and you see the evidence, this increases your trust. Then you can send it back out again. And every time that faith is fulfilled, when it comes back into you fulfilled, then it develops into trust and confidence. Then, because you have the trust and confidence behind you, you could send that faith back out again and bring it back some more. And then you start being more confident in putting your faith out there because you have so much experience that you can trust in, right? I think we get that, but we don't necessarily get that about willpower. And willpower is really meant to power you through when doubts or fears happen. But if you will create a habit, that will take away you having to use up your willpower, life force energy. It's a force of energy that you have. And an example of that would be, and I have to thank Ramit Sethi for the analogy on this. He said, if I woke up every day and, I know I need to exercise, I want to exercise, I like how, I enjoy the process, I like how I look when I exercise, I hate how I feel when I don't. But, some mornings it's really cold, and some mornings that bed feels really good, or I didn't get to sleep early enough. And then there's all these steps that I've got to go through to get ready to go to the gym. And if I'm resistant, then I'll think, well, I got to do this, but first I got to do that. And then there's this. And by the time I do it, I won't have time, right? We get into that thinking, that excuse thinking. Our resistance has taken hold when we don't have a place where we set that habit in place. So his strategy is that number one, he made the commitment that every day at this time I go to the gym. It's on his calendar. It's immovable. Okay. Number two, he has set up a set of habits to support it. And that is when he wakes up, he has his exercise clothes sitting at the end of the bed, his gym bag, his keys, everything's ready to go. He's got his whatever magical drink he drinks in the morning. His shoes are there. And he reduced whatever friction he had to have in order to fulfill his commitment. Are you getting that? And I know I just gave a little run, but what did I tell you to do? I'm teaching as well as I'm telling. Number one, a commitment. Made a commitment, said and personally that this is what I want to do, and it aligned to his values. Okay? Because one, He likes it, how it feels. He sees the value and gives an energy. He likes how he looks, and he hates how he feels when he doesn't do it. But he's actually aligning to that goal, to his business success, right? And maybe dating success a little, maybe, I don't know. But that's in there, right? So he's aligning it to a value. Then he's put it on his calendar and it does not change. Then he does everything that could possibly create friction. He removes any friction that he can between him rising up and going to the gym. Okay. As he does that, so what did he do? He set out his clothes. He's got his shoes, his gym bags there. He knows where his keys are. He has his food in the fridge ready to roll, right? That way he doesn't fall into temptation. Even when he's tired, the tiredness is not going to take over, because then this force of habit starts to take it. And then if he did miss a day or so, he said it feels so awful to miss it. I have to make sure that I get back in that habit as quickly as possible. Otherwise, once I've broken that habit, it's easier to fall back into the bad habits and the default of not doing it and letting chaos run. So just that little example, if you could hold that story in your mind, that's really the premise of what we're talking about with your business. We want to remove the friction. We want you to get in the habit. And the way that you do that is by making the commitment to yourself on what your goal is. And we're talking about this, right? This is all the stuff we're doing is leading to this. Okay. Oh, Emily, you're right on track. All right. So what do we know? We know what our goal is. We know what our values is, why it matters, right? We know what we want to do. Well, we know that we want to either sell our project. We want to get more coaching clients. We want to sell our program or product. Okay. We want to sell our services. And we have an idea about how much we need to sell in order to meet our financial goal. We even did that. I mean, we have done so much. Guys, I hope that you're really spending time on the worksheets, because every single thing is designed to support you, so that when it comes time to make the decisions and start taking the actions, there's very little friction. That's what we're doing here. Okay? So we're going to talk about the magic of time blocking and how you can set up these habits and these time frames so that there's very little friction. And when you're in that space, you can hold one focus. Because I don't know about you, I used to be a multitasker. I used to be able to switch gears really, really fast. And then I had my big health episode. And frankly, I really can't manage the stress. I can't outwork. It used to be I could outwork anyone. I just have different bandwidth, and I think it's probably the best thing that ever happened to me. There is a big myth around multitasking. They've done study after study that shows the minute you start dividing your attention, your effectiveness goes. And literally, people who are on pot have greater mental bandwidth and clarity than people who are trying to work with multitasking. It's very difficult. Okay. You actually can get more done faster by committing to the time and then setting realistic deadlines. And I'll be sharing some little tips and strategies that help me get that figured out. Okay. So on the time block, so let me get back to my sheet here. And pardon me, I'm going to take a little sip of water. If you hear a dog barking, I apologize. We've got workers around the house, and in the bedroom next door, we had to put the dog up because there's people outside and people inside, and you've got to just keep the dogs quiet. So that's the willpower myth. Okay, you're not going to power yourself through. That it is really something. It's an energy that you want to conserve and use intentionally. Okay. The magic of time blocking. When I discovered this, it really freed me up. And even back in days of just starting out, I realized that I could see more people if I had a day that I saw people. So Fridays became my appointment day. If I had a day that I said, I'm going to meet with people one on one today. So I would go to the coffee shop in Dallas, Texas, the Corner Bakery, I think the Corner Bakery is my favorite place to go because they had good breakfast and good lunch. And I could sit there basically all day long, and they had great Wi-Fi. And I would go to a networking meeting. I would take those cards from a networking meeting, and then I would call everyone up that I met and let them know that I was going to be in Dallas because I lived in Fort Worth. I said, I'm going to be in Dallas on next Tuesday. Would you like to get together? Yes. Well, what works better for you? Because I'm going to be kind of in and out of meeting some other people. What time would work better for you? Hey, do you have about 30 minutes? Because I'd like to know, be able to find out about what you're up to. That gives us about 15 minutes each to talk. And then we could go on from there. I made so much money. One day, it was the first time I tried it, I booked $10,000 worth of business. So does it work? Absolutely. Absolutely. And that was the strategy. I've got your card. I'm going to be here at this certain time, right? Oh, while I'm there, do you want to meet? And that became kind of my regular thing. That went onto my calendar. So in this magic of time blocking, we're having times of specific focus. And I had the pleasure of meeting Natalie Cook, who was an Olympic gold medalist, and she was with the women's Australian volleyball team. And this recommendation that I'm giving you comes from her. And as I started applying it and tweaking it to my own time blocking, I started getting better results. In fact, the first one was a big shock to me personally because I wanted to focus on work. And I didn't realize that my work ethic was actually causing problems because I wasn't exercising or doing any self-care, because exercise is fun to me and going and getting a massage is fun. And I was raised with that work ethic of you don't have fun until your work is done, Missy. I grew up with entrepreneurial parents. We had grocery stores growing up, but also restaurants and other businesses. So work was everywhere all the time. And if we weren't working at the store or a restaurant, or we weren't out at a first Monday trades day, then we were at home working. So work was pretty much my life. So I had to learn how to do this. And she said the number one thing that goes on the calendar of an Olympian, and I think you need to do this too, is self-care. She scheduled all of her self-care first. All of the massages, I have to say it the way she did, all the massages, all the massages, all the physical therapy. She knew about what her recovery time was. She knew that she'd have to have just some time for exercising, but this was just her time to rest and recover, exercise, everything that fed her. So that was actually number one on the calendar. Number two was family priorities, because she had care of her elderly mother, I believe what it was, and she had to take her mother to regular doctor appointments. Well, those doctor appointments went on there, but also her regular visits to her mother, who was in some type of assisted living. That was not ever going to move. It was never going to change. And it had to be something like literally an Olympic event, or she would be traveling to or from. That was the only reason that ever changed. But that was the next thing on the priorities. She had time to think and plan. For her, visualizing her moves and visualizing conditioning her body was important as doing it. The Chicago Bulls famously did this. And what was it when they called it the three-peat? They had the 3 years in the 90s that they won the championship, the national championships. Every year they started devoting more and more time to visualizing about their success. They cut the physical practice time because they were having players injured during that time. So they did an analysis and they increased the visual time, the thinking about it time, the strategic time, and making sure everyone understood the plays at a mental level, and reduced the physical practice time. So their injuries went down, their mental acuity went up, and then they actually became more cohesive as a team. Incredible, incredible. The other thing that is kind of things outside your control. Now we're moving into what's yours to control, what's in your world. But then we have regular networking events, and we will come back to those soon. There will be meetups and business networking. There'll be certain meetings that you want to go to. There'll be conferences. I always hated those. I would go, but now I'd be like, man, if I could only get to a networking event, I'd be so happy. I would just so love to get back out among the living again. Wouldn't you? I mean, oh man, I could only hear an elevator pitch. Wow. Yeah. No, it said no one ever, but it's a really important time in our business. So we definitely want to go spend that time and build those relationships. Well, we got to get that on our calendar. And now that is more of Zoom meetings, that we're having a lot more virtual things. But here's the surprising one. And this is probably one of the most important things to put on your calendar. And when I learned about the chaos theory of planning and productivity, it changed my life because I live in a chaotic world. I wish I had a quiet, orderly life. I don't. I live with chaotic people. Things happen. Suddenly things happen out of the blue. And when I found out about this, they said, what they realized was every week there was about 3 to 4 hours something would get out of their control. Okay. Now, the people who wrote this, and I cannot share the report because it's a paid program, but I will post the link to it. It's like a $30 report, and it's worth every dollar. Okay. And the people who wrote it, and they plan their business around having 3 months off a year. And they did that first year in business. So I think they know a little something about it. So the way chaos planning works is on their calendar, they make sure that they have this gap called chaos. It's a 3 to 4 hour block. Now, when would you use it? Let's say that you had planned to set up all of your social media posts and plug in some, do some posts, social media posts. You were planning on doing that. And then you were going to do some email follow-ups. Like it's kind of like some back end work, but it's really important. And you had Tuesday on your schedule to do that, but something happened that you wound up doing instead. Now, like maybe someone called you and wanted to talk to you about your business. Maybe you got invited to give a talk, or maybe just life happened and you had 4 contractors show up at the same time at your house when they were not supposed to. Right? So what do? Well, so that you can make sure that you complete the time, you can do it in your chaos time. Isn't that great? You have that time that's already set to make up for the times that you couldn't do it. Very simple. Once you build this in and you keep that time as a time that is productive, right? But also let's say, well, you're planning on, usually you go exercise on a certain day, or you'd committed to meditation or something. Something happened that you couldn't do your self-care. Well, instead of doing it on Monday morning, you're going to go do it during the chaos time. And making sure that this time's built in ensures that you have time to do everything that you need to do. Does that make sense? Oh, thank you so much, Maria. What a sweet comment. Thank you so much. There you go. Accolades to you on your dedication. I just noted your responses on all hours of the clock. Synchronous. pardon my Texas accent, you're just now talking about your work ethic. Thank you. Um, I appreciate that so much. She said, when transcribing your app capture the entire segment of this challenge, so many gems I would love to reread. Well, I could actually get them transcribed, and I did not turn on my transcriber. Forgive me, but I will go ahead and I will get these transcribed, but that may have to be a little extra package because that is an extra that I have to pay for, but I can let you know what transcription costs would be. Fair enough? Okay, awesome. And Emily's saying, oh, a day behind. Missed yesterday, fighting a situation, need to change. Yes, and well, overwhelmed. Oh. So, guys, right now we have this idea about time. And before we go into all this time planning, let's think about how you think about time. And I just want to think about your own visual and mental representation of time. The way I first ever found out that people thought about time as an experience was, I don't know, someone was explaining about languages and how different people with different languages saw time as something you rode. Some saw it as a force that flows behind you and you have to kind of catch it. Some see it as a wheel and that it could roll over you or you have to try to get control of. You have to really master riding this wheel. And everybody had all their different times, all their different concepts about it. And the thing is, when we think about time, it really is all relative, right? Like if we're really enjoying ourselves, it goes fast. If we don't enjoy something, it goes slow. And we tend to perform, the studies that show that even though we may have 2 weeks to get something done, we're not going to take the 2 weeks. Usually we're going to wind up doing it in a probably 8-hour or less period. And so we have this ability to multiply our efforts to fit into a really small period of time. And so time has this ability to stretch out or contract based on our level of consciousness. Isn't that cool? It really does. We can time travel. Just from personal experience, and if you've followed me from time to time, if you followed me, you've heard me tell the story about when I was first starting off in my business and I was still working a full-time job. Now, I don't have a map to show you, but at the time, I lived in Fort Worth, which is from courthouse to courthouse. From Dallas is 30 miles. Okay, I was living and working in South Fort Worth, and the place I needed to go give talks was just north of Dallas, about 45 miles away. Okay, and crossing over multiple freeway systems at rush hour traffic. So I got off at 6. And I need to be in Richardson, 42 miles away, in traffic, no matter what the weather was, in the dark, in the rain, whatever was going on. No accidents within an hour. And that would have been pushing it on the very best of day. But what I did was I did a command and I visualized, okay? And every day before I got in the car, I would just say, oh, I'm just so grateful how everything flows. I'm just so grateful to have this chance to go talk and be with people because I gave information talks. And I'm just so grateful. I'm so grateful for everybody that committed to it. I'm so grateful for everybody who's helping to make this happen. Oh, gosh, this is going to be so good. And I just would be getting in that, oh, it's so good mindset. And then I'd get a mental image of me walking in and looking up at the clock and it being about 10 to 7. But I did always let the people know that I was coming from South, and if for whatever reason I was late, please let them know that I was on my way unless I called. Okay, so I had a really good relationship with them. It was the same place all the time. So everybody knew what my situation was, where I was coming from. So I already had a lot of grace and I already had a built-in excuse. but I did not want to operate from the excuse. Are you getting it? Yeah. I'm not going to operate from the excuse. I'm going to operate from this grace and gratitude and the potential. What did I want to align my mind to? Was walking in at 10 to 7. And I'm not going to lie, there are some times that I was going, there's no way I'm going to get there. I'm just going to keep commanding it. Then I would do a command. I don't know how. I'm walking in, relaxed, comfortable, and confident. At 10 to 7, I only know I'm there in time, on time now, and I am fulfilled. And I would just let that go. I expand out. And I don't know how. I am in the flow and traffic is flowing with me. I only know I'm living, moving, breathing in this flow now, and I am fulfilled. Hey, you want to mark this 37-minute mark so that you can come back and grab that command? Very powerful. Was never late, ever. And I mean, there were times I got distracted and I even missed my exit and had to turn around back and act, you name it. It happens. You know what happens when you're driving out there. And so holding that intention, and I just held this belief that time stretches or contracts in alignment with what I needed to do. You want to go ahead and make that command with me? Let's do that right now. And then we're going to look at our schedule. Okay. All right. So right now, what we want to align to is not time. We want time to align to us. Number one, we're aligning to your goal of creating a successful business. And the way we have a successful business is by making sales. The way we make sales is what? By meeting with people, having a conversation, and making an offer, right? We are not aligning to sales or conversations or the offer. We are aligning to the greater good that our business serves. Okay, everybody gets hung up on what is the right command and what are we aligning to in this stuff. We are aligning to that greater good, the values, like when we talked about Ramit and why he wanted to exercise. Right, and all we're doing is we're setting up internally, removing all the friction between our intention and taking the action and fulfilling our commitment to doing the exercise so that we have the energy, so that we look good, we feel good, and on and on and on. Right? Okay, that's what we're doing. So we're aligning to that greater good. And you could even say, well, one of the results I want to see is X amount of income per year or in the next 90 days. That is a good intention too. But think about the greater good that does. Right now, I am holding a particular dollar amount in the next 90 days. Okay? So just align to that goal and let that goal align to you. Now I just want you to become aware of your body. Very often when we ground, we think about a tree and you having roots. But right now, what I just want you to do is just really be aware of your own body. Feel your feet, wherever your feet are. Tune into your hips, your shoulders, and let your body just adjust and align to your goal. Did you feel your shoulders like pop back a little? Yeah. Woo. Very good. Yes, you feel your body already adjusting to that. Now, bring your attention to your heart and picture, visualize, or imagine that you are connected to a pole of light. Roll your eyes up, picture, visualize, or imagine that you are traveling up a pole of light. The higher you go, the faster you go. Soon you find yourself surrounded by that beautiful black void in space. Break through the darkness into the light. Eyes up. Follow along mentally. I don't know how I came to be a master of time. I only know I am mastering my time now, and I am fulfilled. I don't know how I am mastering the flow of my work. I only know that I am mastering that flow now, and my work is aligning and flowing with me. Ooh, yeah, I don't know how. Time stretches and contracts by my command. I only know I am the master of time now, and I am fulfilled. Just let all that go. Let your eyes relax. And we're just going to allow this download of what time is, what it looks like, how it feels like, how to operate in this grid of time. And now just feel yourself coming right back down into your body. Feel whatever energy is coming in as part of that download, that greater knowledge. And we're just going to unwind, unwind, unwind. Our limiting scarcity thinking ideas about time. I'm just going to let it go, let it unwind, unwind, unwind. Now we're going to rewind, 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 aligning tune and allowing these new ideas of the abundance of time, our mastery of time, our place in time. There we go. I don't know who this is, but I want to go ahead and get this pulled. There's a story that people tell. Just stay with me here. Keep your eyes closed. There's a story people tell about being born early or being born late. They were wanted or unwanted. Their birth was a bad timing. All of that. I'm just going to go ahead and, with your permission, if you would like to get those beliefs pulled, I'm going to go ahead and pull them for you right now. And just mentally say yes or no, and I'm going to go up and do it. Just witness what I do. I'm going to roll my eyes up and pull those beliefs now. I'm just doing it mentally. I want to resolve those histories and download for you what it looks like and feels like to be wanted and welcomed in time, on time, born at the perfect time. There we go. Now just feel that energy coming back in. And then let it go. And when you're ready, open your eyes. Hey, I wonder what idea of time that you were holding that was stopping you, that was keeping you from taking right action. I wonder what idea of time would empower you to accomplish more and to create greater abundance in your life. I wonder what idea of time you need to adapt and accept so that you are naturally flowing from blessing to blessing to blessing, from success to success to success. And notice what happens in your own energy field as I wonder. Now I want to invite you to wonder. I wonder. What do you wonder now? Isn't that beautiful? So much starts happening when we allow ourselves to wonder. Okay, so now I wonder how we can structure our time, we as this collective that are here together, that are one. I wonder how we could structure our time best to produce the greatest results. We're told things like you want to spend at least 30% of your time marketing your business, even when your business is doing well. If you're just filling up your calendar, you're getting started, you may have to double that number. But start with that third. We talk about the ratio of the golden mean, that 3-to-1 ratio, 3 times like we want to have 3 times income to 1 times debt, right? So if we want to make more money, doesn't it seem like we would spend 3 times our effort and energy and time on the creation of that money, on doing the activities that would generate that money. Unfortunately, what keeps us struggling is we wind up spending three times our amount of our time to the time actually producing income, activities, doing income producing activities. We do it doing operational. We do it doing other errands for other people, social media. We're wasting our time because maybe we're in fear. Remember, I don't know if you got to see the sales sales by your command presentation I did. But remember, when we're in fear, we're doing a few things. We're fighting, right? We're fighting, we're arguing, we feel rebellious. I know I'm supposed to do it, but I don't want to do it. We're in that oppositional. We're fleeing. So maybe we're like, yeah, I know I should do it, but I know I'm supposed to have a meeting, but I'm not feeling it today. And we pull back, and we're somehow running away from the opportunities that are right in front of us. We're running away from the relationships because maybe we don't want to be rejected, right? So fight, flight, or we get frozen. There just seems like so much to do that if we were to do anything, it wouldn't make a difference, and we don't know which order to do it in. So a confused mind says no, right? So we do nothing. So we allow ourselves to try and go and get that dopamine hit that we would get off of eating, taking naps. A real problem with solo homepreneurs, we're going to talk about this other one, but self-gratification, the self-gratification, pleasing, that dopamine hit, that's what I'm talking about. Or effing around, right? That could go to it. So we're frozen, then we're going into that dopamine hit, and that's the effing around, okay? And a lot of people, particularly young men, say they, rather than spending time on their marketing, they're spending a lot more time doing other things that young men like to do. When they have free time on their hands, they like to fill their hands with other things. That's all I'm going to say. Okay, we'll keep this G-rated. Okay, so that's what happens. So now when we are aligning to and we're mastering, then we can have confidence. And by time blocking, we gain confidence. Confidence is not going to come. It's not like, hey, I'm going to build up my big reserve of confidence, then I'm going to go out there. No, confidence comes from the actions that you're taking and seeing the results. Also comes from trust. And what did I say trust comes from? Trust is faith with evidence. Well, first we have that faith, we send it out, we bring it back, and we start building up the evidence. Very often it's easier to keep our commitments to other people than ourselves. And that may be a command that you need to do, or some personal work, because there's some worthiness issues there about you not being worth the time. And that's deeper personal work. Okay, so these are some of the elements that we got to look at that's often underlooked. And that's why a lot of times we make all of our big plans, but we aren't taking that action. I want to go ahead and move through here and just kind of show you. We talked about the times that we want to have on our calendar, and that would be the focus times. Okay, and these are all the activities that go with it. All right. So on our weekly focus, if you were my, let's say when you're my coaching client, let's do a little positive anchoring here. When you're my coaching client, we've already talked about what your vision is, your goals, what activities, what is it you want to do? Where do you need help and support, right? We talk about what would you need in order to move the needle on your business. And then we talk about what's stopping you. And we might talk about some strategies. We might look at belief work. We might need to tap into some other resources or give you some tools to support that, right? But then it comes down to this. And this is a piece that a lot of people miss because they try to do too much. And what I found is when I bring people down to a smaller focus and they have measurables and they have things that they can account for. Like sometimes people go, you know what, I'm going to get on the phone between 10 and 12 and I'm going to make a bunch of calls. That is not specific. We've heard about SMART goals, right? It's specific, it's measurable, actionable, right? So that is not specific enough. But what you could commit to is I'm going to make 10 phone calls. Now, 10 phone calls. I talked earlier this week about the 10, 10, 10. How you're going to reach out to 10 people you don't know, follow up with 10 people that you have connected in with the past, right? You're going to do 10 follow up or 10 emails, and then 10 connecting back to past customers, right? So new business, follow up, and connecting backwards, 10, 10, 10. If you do that, you are going to get people in your pipeline. Okay, you're going to get referrals and everything else. We're going to talk tomorrow more about how to have a sales conversation. And then I'm going to look for, I used to do a program called Infinity Marketing System that talked more about that cycle, but that's actually part of the Sales by Your Command program. Okay, so what I ask my clients is what you see here. Number one, how do you want to feel at the end of the week as you think back on everything you accomplished? The reason for this, it's, and I did this earlier with you, it's when we're doing that tracking across time, we want that feeling to be the path. And we want everything to align to this good feeling. So we're creating this, and this is kind of building in your own inner award system. So play along with me. Okay, so how do you want to feel at the end of this week as you think back on everything you accomplished? Some people just will go, I want to feel good. You know, I want to be able to look back and go, yeah. Wow, it was a week. It had challenges, but you know, we did it. I want to feel accomplished. I want to feel good. Or maybe you want to feel proud of yourself. Like, man, I set out to do this thing and I made it happen. And we are not spending enough time being present to the wins and letting ourselves feel that success. So we want to create that in advance. Okay. Then the next week, I make sure that we spend time in the call going over what you accomplished and making sure that you tune in to this good feeling. And yeah, is there going to be stuff you feel like you could have done better? Is there some places you fell down? Yeah. But you'll be able to face it with greater confidence, knowing that, yeah, even though you made a mistake, there's things that you could look at that you could feel proud about and that you can trust yourself to keep taking right action. Okay? That's what we're doing. So then what is your number one goal for the week? So if you're thinking about the actions that you want to take, I'd say, well, you know, this week I've got to get some sales in. So what's your strategy? Well, I'm going to make some calls. Okay. So number one goal, I want to make some sales. How much in sales? At the end of the week, I want to set a real number and put it just a little bit outside your comfort zone. Okay. So maybe you don't have a financial goal, but just it's easier just to talk in terms of money. Okay. Or at the end of the week, by Friday at 3:00, my website is going to be done. That's it. I'm done with this, which I'm working on. But let's play with money. So by the end of the week, I want to generate X amount of money. What's the main thing you must do to achieve it? I have to either complete the proposal, or I've got to reach out to my 10-10-10 or whatever it is. And then, so you got to connect with people. What's the number one activity that'll help you achieve it? So we've got that mental thing, but then we have a realistic action. Now, here's the other thing that I want to say about these times. You want to have, and make a note on your paper. You want to make a note about how much time you think that's going to take. Why? Because that's got to go onto your calendar. You got to make it real. So if you're going to be doing your 10-10-10, that's got to be real. It's got to go on your calendar. But you got to estimate how much time you think these are going to take. Okay. Then we have number 2 and number 3. So we want to have that one big rock, but you know, life happens and sometimes there's more things that need to happen. Yeah, I'm going to do the presentation. everything I'm doing is lining up to that. The big thing I have to do is make sure I've got my slide deck, and number two, my supporting materials. I've got to have all that for the meeting, but also I've got to make sure that I've got my right outfit on, or the car's gassed up. I've got to make sure this other stuff, my self-care, so that I'm confident, is on board. That could actually be number two, right? That if that's taking effort and energy, that's not outside of it. Let your work time, like if it's like, hey, I'm going to make sure I get the car detailed, maybe you could have somebody do that for you, have somebody, mobile person, do that, but that's got to be on the calendar. Does that make sense? You got to brain dump everything that's going to be related to what you're doing, but then however you can chunk it down into actionable, that's going to go on the calendar. But what your focus is on is three main things. Does that make sense? That if nothing else happens, these three things get done. That's why we're focusing on it. You're going to do a lot more, but these three things must be done to move the needle. Okay, and then you got to have time to, like, what would you just do for yourself? You got to have a day. Mine before the pandemic was Tuesday afternoon. Cinemark had $5 movies, and the Cinemark I like to go to had a margarita machine. And I loved on Tuesday afternoons to be able to go to Cinemark and watch a big blockbuster movie in a theater that was pretty well empty for $5 was how much it was. And then I could drink a margarita and eat a movie hot dog while I was doing it. And I just was so happy. Or I would go watch the movie and go eat at Bar Louie, which was right next door, and have some beautiful gourmet thing to eat. But there was always some reward. So what's something you will do just for yourself? Okay, and that's super important. Remember when we started on the calendar, what was the number one thing? Self-care. It's got to be something that just you like. Okay, something kind of selfish. And then finally, brain dump your steps, everything that you got to do, and then you're going to prioritize everything to align to those goals. Okay? Woo! We did a lot. Was this helpful? Someone said, I love your movie goal. Man, I am so looking forward to movie theaters being open again. But does this make sense? Like, as we're directing our energy, the time is going to stretch, but we're not trying to do everything. And then once you know what to do and you're pretty clear on how to do it, then you need, the next step is, and I don't have it here, but the next step is looking at all the stuff you're doing. And then you would make a list called a not doing list. Okay. Because you need to become the CEO of your business. And the CEO's number one job is to generate income for their company. That is your real role. If we approach it as a practitioner, we're going to keep ourselves broke and limited. Okay? You are the CEO of your company, and your company is only going to grow as great as your vision is, and it's only going to be able to prosper to the degree that you free yourself from all the activities that don't keep you focusing on that goal. Okay, so you want to put on that CEO mindset hat and then look here. But right now, get control of your own time. Then as you start growing into that role of being the CEO, and you start delegating more off of your plate, and you create that not doing list, and you start, then you'll learn how to, like, here's the steps, and then you can teach somebody to do it. Learning to break down these steps is the first step to learning how to delegate, okay? Because you are doing so much unconsciously and mentally, then that keeps you from teaching anyone else. Here's the other thing. Remember we talked about willpower, and it's this energetic bandwidth. When you have all that stuff in your head, that keeps that willpower from being able to fill up and energize you. When I separated from the commanding One Command Global Corporation, and I stepped down from being CEO, Eden, who took over my role, said, well, I don't see a lot. I'm trying to find what your systems are. Sarah told me all the passwords, but I don't see how everything works together. What are the systems? What are the protocols? How's the flow? And I didn't realize I had all that in my head. And every time, and I think we had 4 or 5 meetings, and she just kept asking more and more questions. And this was Eden Lovejoyce. This is her superpower, because this is actually how she consults with companies and could help them be more productive. She started asking questions that I hadn't thought about, and I didn't realize how much was in my head. And every time we would have a conversation and she got it out of my head and onto paper and as part of a greater system, I started feeling lighter and lighter and lighter and freer. And I didn't realize how all that was bogging me down and keeping me feeling stressed and worried, because that system of the business was running inside of me, and it was leaching from my natural energy system. Okay, so by getting it off of paper and removing that business and working with it as a separate entity, then what did I create? I created a relationship with my business and my role as the CEO to have authority over that business. Very powerful mental and emotional positioning. And that's where we're talking about moving into in this sales mastery. Even though we're talking about the skills, you've got to think about what everything that's keeping you from operating in the fullness of your skills to promote your business and grow and prosper. Whew. Okay, I want to open up the floor for any questions. We're right at that 102 mark. Thumbs up. Was this helpful today, Emily? Oh, Emily, I'm so glad you're feeling so much better. And yeah, Maria, absolutely. CEOs need talented helpers, but we've got to know how to help ourselves first, right? Yeah, absolutely need to. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Well, I appreciate you so much. And that wanting to feel wanted. Wasn't that beautiful? Isn't that beautiful, please, of unhooking that time. So I'd love to get your feedback on this. And I'm going to look for, I do have a 2-week action calendar, and I'll put a model of what mine looks like so that you can kind of know how to get yours set up. And then if you have any questions, be sure and type in hashtag, a little # replay, and I will answer any questions that we have. All right, my friend, I'm going to go ahead and let you go. Until next time, this is Kathryn Perry, the Big Vision Coach, and I witness your mastery. Bye-bye, everyone.